In this devotional on Galatians, we're going to see that even the best of us falls into error, into bad behavior, sinful behavior, compromising behavior because of the pressure of others. Now, Paul had just affirmed that his visit to Jerusalem, he was to be the apostle to the Gentiles, and Cephas was to be the apostle to the Jews. But Cephas and Barnabas compromised their behavior, which compromised the gospel. Listen along and read also if you'd like to. But when Cephas came to Antioch to the north up towards Lebanon and a Gentile area, he says, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. Well, let me just give the understanding here. Private sin, private rebuke. Public sin, sometimes public rebuke. Paul says, let me explain. Prior to the coming of certain men from James, he used to eat with the Gentiles. To eat with the Gentiles meant to fellowship and accept them. But when they came, he would withdraw and separate himself because he feared the party of the circumcision, the Jews. The rest of the Jews joined his hypocrisy, with the result that Paul says, even Barnabas, even Barnabas, my companion, was carried away by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that they were not walking a straight line according to the truth, they were compromising it. The truth is a straight line. When I saw that they were not walking a straight line according to the truth of the good news, I said to Cephas in the presence of all, if you, being a Jew, live in the same manner as the Gentiles and not like the Jews, then how do you forcefully compel the Gentiles to live like Jews? We are Jews by natural birth, by natural culture, by natural heritage, by natural teaching, and not sinners from among the Gentiles. Yet, because we know that a person is not justified by the works of the law, but through faith in Messiah Jesus, indeed we have believed in Messiah Jesus with the result that we may be justified by faith in Messiah and not by the works of the law. Peter, why are you and Barnabas and all the other Jews so hypocritical in front of these other Jews that you seem to care more about than you do what God thinks? Why is it you are falling back into the law to accommodate them? You are not walking the straight line. He goes on, and this is a theme throughout Paul. Since by the works of the law, no human being will be justified. That is, have a right standing before God. A right standing before God never comes by works. Verse 17, but if while seeking to be justified by Messiah, we ourselves have been found sinners, that is, violators of the law, then is the implication that the Messiah is a servant of sin? Is Messiah causing you to walk according to the law? And then he says, may the thought never, ever come into existence. Don't ever think that way. The explanation is that if I rebuild what I once destroyed, if I rebuild the law, I prove myself to be a transgressor of that law. The law leads us to Christ, we're going to see. Verse 19, for on account of the law, I died to the law, so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Messiah. This is one of the earliest verses that I memorized as a believer. I have been crucified with Messiah. Now I no longer live, but Messiah lives in me. Now the life that I now live in the flesh, humanly in this life, I live by faith, trust in the Son of God who loved me and who gave himself for the sake of me, which we've heard Paul say earlier in this epistle. Verse 21, he says, I do not reject the grace that comes from God, because if righteousness comes through the law, then Messiah died needlessly without a payment. If we can work our way to heaven, if we can earn our way to heaven, if we can be good enough to make it to heaven on our own, then God would never, ever have sent his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, to suffer an eternal punishment in a compressed amount of time with all the brutality and humiliation that came with it. It is Christ alone